On a dimming late afternoon, two young men drove a worn-out Jeep deep into the heart of an ancient forest. The sun was beginning its slow descent, casting elongated shadows that danced between the gnarled branches overhead. Ethan Collins, the driver, tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His sharp eyes scanned the narrow dirt path twisting through the dense woods. Beside him sat Lucas Reed, flipping through a crumpled map, the edges stained with dirt and sweat. "You sure this is the right way, Ethan?" Lucas asked, voice tinged with unease. Ethan smiled wryly, glancing over. "Don't worry. I found this spot on a fishing forum. People say the fish here are enormous monster-sized, even. And it's supposed to be untouched by most anglers." Lucas exhaled slowly, eyeing the darkening trees outside. "I don't know, man. This place feels off. Like something's watching us." "Relax," Ethan replied. "It's just your imagination. Besides, if we catch something big tonight, all this will be worth it." The Jeep rattled over rocks and tree roots, the only sounds being the crunch of tires on gravel and the occasional crackle from the old radio. A bluesy tune hummed softly, mixing eerily with the whispers of wind through the canopy. After nearly an hour, the dirt road narrowed further and suddenly ended in a small clearing. Ahead, a weathered wooden sign hung crookedly, "Welcome to Whispering Lake Private Fishing Grounds." Below it, faded letters warned, "Respect the peace catch and release." Lucas peered at the sign, a shiver running down his spine. Whispering Lake. Sounds like something out of a ghost story. Ethan chuckled, shaking off the tension. Maybe that's why the fish are so big. The legends keep the crowds away. They parked the Jeep near an old boathouse with peeling paint and boarded a rickety wooden pier stretching out into the still, glassy water of the lake. The surface mirrored the sky, untouched except for the occasional ripple where fish broke the water. "This is it," Ethan said, unloading their gear. "We set up camp here for the night, fish until dawn." As they prepared their rods and bait, a thin mist began to rise from the lake, curling and twisting like spectral fingers reaching upward. Lucas glanced around nervously. "This place. It's too quiet. No birds, no insects. Just silence." Ethan dismissed the thought. "It's just nature's calm before the storm." Suddenly, a faint sound broke the silence, a soft, childlike giggle carried faintly on the breeze. Lucas froze. "Did you hear that?" Ethan paused, listening. The giggle came again, closer this time, then faded into the rustle of leaves. "Probably some kids playing nearby," Ethan said, though his voice lacked conviction. As darkness settled, the two men lit a small campfire near the shore. Flames flickered, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts across the trees. Lucas stared into the fire, his thoughts drifting. "Ethan, what if the stories about this lake are true? About the spirits that haunt it? Ethan shook his head, trying to sound confident. Those are just tales to scare off tourists. We're here for fish, not ghosts. But as night deepened, strange things began to unfold. The gentle lapping of water grew louder, yet no breeze disturbed the stillness. Shadows flitted just beyond the firelight. The temperature dropped abruptly, their breath visible in the cold air. Ethan was the first to notice the fishing lines twitching. "Looks like we've got a bite," he whispered excitedly, gripping his rod. But the struggle that followed was unlike anything they expected. The line strained violently, pulling with an almost supernatural force. Lucas grabbed his rod, trying to help. Suddenly, a monstrous splash erupted from the water, sending sprays of cold liquid onto the pier. The fight was fierce, but their quarry remained unseen beneath the dark surface, its strength overwhelming. Then, out of the mist, a figure emerged pale and dripping, with eyes that glowed faintly in the firelight. It was a young boy, wearing tattered clothes soaked through, his skin unnaturally pale, his face expressionless yet filled with a chilling emptiness. "Stay back!" Ethan shouted, backing away. Lucas stumbled, heart pounding as the boy's empty gaze bore into him. The figure raised a pale hand, beckoning silently, before disappearing into the fog as suddenly as it had appeared. The two men looked at each other in stunned silence, realizing that Whispering Lake was far more than just a fishing spot. It was a place where the living and the restless dead converged, and their night of adventure had just turned into a battle for survival. Ethan and Lucas barely caught their breath as the ghostly figure vanished into the swirling mist. The lake's surface returned to an eerie calm, but the chill that had settled in their bones refused to fade. "We need to get out of here," Lucas whispered, voice trembling. His hands shook as he clutched his fishing rod. Ethan nodded slowly, eyes scanning the dark tree line. "Agreed. But first, we need to pack up." That thing wasn't human. Suddenly, from the shadows near the boathouse, a faint scratching noise echoed like nails scraping against wood. Both men froze, hearts pounding in unison. "Did you hear that?" Lucas hissed. Before Ethan could respond, a low, guttural whisper seemed to breathe out from the darkness, "Don't leave, stay and play." A cold gust snuffed out their campfire in an instant, plunging them into darkness pierced only by the pale glow of their flashlights. Ethan swung his beam toward the boathouse. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a figure standing just inside, a woman draped in a soaked, white dress, her long hair tangled and dripping with water. Lucas swallowed hard. Who are you?" The woman's eyes gleamed, reflecting the flashlight with a haunting intensity. "I'm the keeper of the lake's secrets. You've disturbed what should remain buried." Ethan stepped forward cautiously. "We don't want trouble. We just came here to fish." The woman's lips curled into a sorrowful smile. "Fishing? Or seeking what was lost? Many come here chasing legends, but none leave untouched. Suddenly, a deafening splash erupted behind them. From the water, dozens of pale, ghostly hands reached up, grasping toward the sky. The air filled with anguished wails that echoed through the forest, blending with the rustling leaves and the distant thunder of unseen storms. Lucas stumbled backward, tripping over a loose board. "Ethan, this place, it's cursed." Ethan pulled Lucas to his feet, scanning the lake's edge. "We need to find shelter. That boathouse, maybe there's a way to barricade ourselves inside." The woman disappeared like mist dissipating under sunlight, leaving behind only a cold, damp chill. Inside the boathouse, they found remnants of old fishing gear, rotting wood, and strange symbols etched into the wall sigils that seemed to shimmer faintly under their flashlight beams. Lucas pointed at one symbol, his voice barely a whisper. "This looks like some kind of warding spell, or a warning." Ethan's fingers traced the marks. "Maybe it's meant to keep something in, or out." Suddenly, the floor beneath them groaned ominously. Dust rained down from the rafters as unseen forces stirred the air. Without warning, a spectral figure lunged from the shadows, its hollow eyes locking onto Ethan. He stumbled back, heart pounding as the apparition passed through him like icy mist. Lucas grabbed Ethan's arm. "We can't stay here. We have to leave now." But as they turned to flee, the door slammed shut with a force that shook the entire structure. Their flashlight flickered and died, leaving them in suffocating darkness. Panic surged through them. In the silence that followed, the whispers returned, fragmented voices calling out names long forgotten, beckoning them deeper into the lake's ancient curse. Trapped, alone, and terrified, Ethan and Lucas faced a chilling truth: Whispering Lake was no ordinary fishing spot. It was a prison for restless souls, and they had just become its newest captives. The darkness inside the boathouse was suffocating, a heavy blanket pressing down on Ethan and Lucas as they struggled to control their ragged breaths. The silence was broken only by the faint drip of water leaking from the decayed roof and the distant, haunting echoes from the lake. Ethan fumbled along the wall, searching for anything to pry the door open. His fingers found a rusty crowbar abandoned near a rotting crate. With shaking hands, he wedged it between the warped wood and gave it a hard shove. The door groaned, then creaked open a crack, allowing a sliver of moonlight to spill inside. They both scrambled out, hearts hammering, only to find themselves greeted by a cold mist rolling off the lake's surface. Lucas shivered, wiping sweat from his brow despite the chill. "We can't stay in there, but I don't like being out here either." Ethan nodded, his eyes scanning the thick forest surrounding the lake. "We need to find the old ranger's cabin. If the legends are true, that's the only safe place around here." As they stepped onto the soft ground, a sudden rustle in the underbrush froze them in place. From between the trees, a grizzled man emerged, leaning heavily on a crooked walking stick. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of sorrow and warning. "You boys shouldn't be here after dark," the man rasped. "Whispering Lake doesn't forgive trespassers." Ethan stepped forward. "We didn't mean any harm. We just wanted to fish." The old man sighed, pulling a worn leather satchel from his belt. "Fishing? There's nothing left to catch, not since the boy died. The lake's taken him and anyone who tries to disturb its depths." Lucas exchanged a glance with Ethan. "Who was the boy?" "Name was Micah," the man said quietly. "A child with a soul too heavy for this world. His death cursed these waters, and his spirit haunts them still." Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through the trees, carrying with it a faint melody, a child's lullaby sung in a voice both sweet and sorrowful. The old man's gaze hardened. "That song means he's near. You don't want to hear it?" Before they could react, the ground beneath their feet trembled. Water bubbled up along the shoreline as ghostly figures emerged, vague outlines of children playing silently, their eyes voids of endless sorrow. Ethan gripped Lucas's arm tightly. "We need to get out now." The old man nodded. "Follow me, quickly." They ran through the dense woods, branches clawing at their faces, as the lake's haunting chorus echoed behind them. Reaching the ranger's cabin, the old man bolted the door and lit a fire, filling the room with warmth and light, a stark contrast to the darkness outside. "Listen well," he said, handing them a faded journal. "This belonged to my grandfather, who tried to unravel the lake's curse. If you want to survive the night, you'll need to understand what binds Micah's spirit here." As Ethan opened the journal, the first page revealed a crude drawing of a boy standing by the lake, surrounded by strange symbols that matched those etched inside the boathouse. Lucas's voice trembled. "This isn't just a ghost story, it's a warning." Outside, the whispers rose again, a symphony of sorrow and menace that promised the night was far from over. The fire crackled softly in the cramped ranger's cabin, casting flickering shadows over the worn pages of the ancient journal Ethan held. Outside, the night pressed against the wooden walls like a living thing, dense with secrets and whispered warnings. Lucas sat beside Ethan, his eyes wide and fixed on the journal's faded ink, the weight of the unknown sinking deep into his bones. The old man, who introduced himself as Harold, settled into a battered chair, his gaze heavy with years of burden. "This lake, it isn't just water and fish. It's a resting place for a tragedy no one here dared to speak of for decades." Ethan cleared his throat, turning the brittle pages with care. "Tell us everything, Harold. We need to know what we're dealing with." Harold's voice dropped to a whisper. "It was back in '79. A boy named Micah, son of a local fisherman. Micah was bright, kind, and had an unexplainable connection to the lake. He would spend hours alone by the water, talking to the fish, or so the villagers said." Lucas frowned. "Talking to fish?" Harold nodded slowly. "The boy was different. Some said he could see things others couldn't. Shadows beneath the water. Voices carried on the wind. He paused, eyes clouding with sorrow. One day, Micah disappeared. His body was never found, but signs of a struggle were evident near the old pier. The villagers whispered that dark forces had taken him, that the lake itself had claimed his soul. Ethan's hand trembled. And the curse? The curse, Harold said grimly, is tied to that loss. The lake's waters turned dark, and those who dared fish there began to vanish or suffer strange accidents. The spirits of those lost, especially Micah, became trapped between worlds, unable to rest, seeking company or revenge. Lucas looked out the window, the mist swirling in the moonlight like ghostly fingers. So those children we saw, the pale figures. Their echoes. Lost souls. Sometimes they're benign, sometimes malevolent, depending on who disturbs their resting place. Ethan closed the journal and stood, pacing the cabin. How do we break the curse? How do we survive the night? Harold sighed deeply. The journal speaks of a ritual, one that requires returning Micah's belongings to the lake's deepest point, and performing a rite to appease the spirits. He pulled from his satchel a small, weathered box. This was Micah's. A locket with a picture of his mother. His father gave it to me years ago, hoping someone would one day set things right. Lucas reached out to touch the box reverently. Suddenly, a harsh tapping sounded at the cabin door. All three froze. The wind howled outside, and the whispers grew louder, coalescing into plaintive cries. Harold slowly stood and opened the door a crack. Beyond, the mist had thickened into a swirling vortex. From it stepped the same pale boy Ethan and Lucas had seen before, Micah's ghostly form, his eyes gleaming with sorrow and longing. "Help me," the apparition whispered, voice barely audible above the rising storm. Ethan swallowed hard. "We will. We have to." The ghost extended a translucent hand, pointing toward the lake's center. Lucas's fingers tightened around the fishing rod he still clutched. "If we fail, what happens to us?" Harold's eyes were steady. "Then we join them, lost souls trapped forever beneath these waters." Determined, Ethan gathered their gear. "We leave at dawn. Tonight, we prepare." As the first light of morning crept through the trees, the trio set out toward the heart of Whispering Lake, the weight of the curse pressing down on them like a shroud. The journey was treacherous. The boat Harold had was old and creaked ominously as it sliced through the mist-covered water. The lake was eerily silent, the surface like glass, reflecting the heavy gray sky above. Halfway across, Ethan's fishing line suddenly jerked violently, pulling taut. "Another bite?" Lucas asked, hope flickering in his eyes. But Ethan's face drained of color. "No. Something else." From beneath the boat, dark shapes writhed and circled, shadowy forms of fish larger than any they had ever seen, their eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. The water churned violently as the spirits of the lake seemed to awaken, reacting to their presence. Suddenly, a massive splash rocked the boat, nearly tipping them into the icy depths. Lucas grasped Ethan's arm. "We have to finish the ritual quickly." Harold nodded grimly, pulling the locket from its box. He whispered an ancient incantation, his voice steady despite the chaos. Ethan carefully lowered the locket into the water, the ripples spreading outward, calming the restless spirits. The mist began to lift, the spectral children's figures fading gently into the morning light. A profound silence settled over the lake as if the very air had been cleansed. Exhausted but relieved, the trio rowed back toward shore, knowing the night's horrors had passed, but the scars of Whispering Lake would remain forever in their memories. Back on solid ground, Ethan, Lucas, and Harold took a moment to catch their breath under the canopy of towering pines. The early morning sun filtered through misty branches, casting dappled light over the damp forest floor. But their respite was short-lived. As they walked toward the ranger's cabin, Lucas's foot struck something hard beneath the fallen leaves. Curious, he knelt and brushed away dirt and moss to reveal the rusted corner of a metal box buried shallowly in the earth. "Ethan, come look at this," Lucas called, voice tinged with excitement and apprehension. Ethan crouched down, wiping grime off the corroded surface. "Could be something valuable. Or something better left hidden." Harold's face tightened. "That area's been disturbed before. The locals call it the Buried Secrets, a place where unwanted things were hidden." Together, they pried open the box with an old knife Ethan carried. Inside lay a collection of yellowed papers, faded photographs, and a tarnished silver ring with an intricate engraving. Lucas unfolded one of the papers carefully. It was a torn letter, dated shortly before Micah's disappearance. The handwriting was hurried and desperate. "I don't want this to end like my brother's," the letter read. "The lake holds darkness beyond reason. Please, don't come here." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Brother." So Micah wasn't alone. Harold nodded grimly. There was another child. A sister. But she vanished without a trace years before Micah's death. Some say the lake took them both. As they examined the photographs, a chilling picture caught their attention: two children, a boy and a girl, standing by the lake shore, their faces eerily serene. Behind them, faint shadows loomed like watching spirits. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and the air thickened with a palpable tension. "Not good," Harold muttered. "The lake remembers. And it doesn't forgive." From the depths of the forest, a low chant began, fragmented voices weaving together in a mournful melody. Ethan instinctively reached for his flashlight, sweeping it through the trees. Figures emerged, translucent, sorrowful apparitions of villagers from long ago, their eyes hollow but their message urgent. "You must finish what was begun," they whispered in unison, their voices overlapping like the rustle of dry leaves. Lucas swallowed hard. "We thought the ritual at the lake was enough. But this is something else. Harold's jaw clenched. The curse is layered. Breaking one bond awakens another. As twilight deepened, the trio hurried back to the cabin, haunted by the spirit's warnings and the heavy burden of the newfound truths. Inside, Harold pulled out an ancient tome bound in cracked leather, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and faded ink. "This book," he said, voice grave, "holds the key to the lake's dark past and the rituals that once bound its spirits. But to understand it, we must face shadows older than any of us." Ethan looked at his companions, determination flickering in his eyes. "We're not leaving until this curse is lifted. Whatever it takes." Outside, the wind howled, carrying the echo of a child's laughter, bittersweet, haunting, and eternal. The cabin was cloaked in darkness save for the flickering firelight that danced across the worn pages of the ancient tome Harold had unearthed. The musty scent of old paper filled the cramped room as Ethan, Lucas, and Harold huddled close. Harold traced his finger over cryptic symbols and faded sketches. "This book belonged to the first keeper of the lake. It contains rituals, incantations, and warnings passed down through generations." Lucas peered over Harold's shoulder. "Can it really help us break the curse?" Harold nodded solemnly. "But it's not simple. The lake's curse is bound by layers, each spirit trapped by chains of pain, betrayal, and forgotten oaths. We must unravel these layers carefully, or risk awakening something far worse." Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the cabin, extinguishing the fire and plunging them into near total darkness. A soft whisper echoed, chilling and insistent, "Beware, the watcher beneath." Ethan flicked his flashlight on, revealing a pale figure standing just beyond the doorway, a woman with eyes like liquid night, her face veiled in sorrow. Harold whispered, "The lake's guardian spirit, it watches, waiting for the right moment." The woman's voice was a haunting melody, "You seek to undo what was sealed. But not all wounds can be healed without sacrifice." Lucas swallowed hard. "What sacrifice?" Before an answer could come, a sudden crash echoed from outside. The cabin walls trembled as if the earth itself protested their intrusion. Ethan and Lucas exchanged glances, adrenaline surging. "We're running out of time," Harold said, grabbing a candle from the mantel. "Tomorrow, we begin the ritual to confront the Watcher. But tonight, we prepare and pray." The night stretched endlessly, shadows flickering and whispering secrets too dark to fully comprehend. Outside, the lake rippled as if stirred by unseen hands, reflecting a sky full of stars and sorrow. The first light of dawn barely pierced the thick fog that clung to Whispering Lake. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold stood silently on the shore, the ancient tome clutched tightly in Harold's weathered hands. "The Watcher beneath," Harold murmured, "is no ordinary spirit. It guards the deepest secrets of the lake, secrets that some would kill to keep buried." Suddenly, the water stirred violently. From its depths, a colossal shape slowly surfaced, a towering figure woven from water and shadow, eyes glowing with otherworldly fire. Lucas stepped back in horror. Is that the Watcher? Ethan gripped his fishing rod, now serving as an improvised staff. We don't have a choice. The ritual must begin. Harold began chanting verses from the tome, his voice resonating across the silent water. Symbols of light appeared around them, glowing softly on the ground, forming a protective circle. The Watcher let out a bone-chilling roar, causing the very earth to tremble. Shadows peeled from its form and surged toward the trio, threatening to overwhelm their fragile defenses. Lucas struggled to hold the circle's edge, chanting alongside Harold. Ethan raised the locket, the symbol of Micah's spirit, into the air, its glow intensifying. Suddenly, the Watcher's form split, revealing a second, smaller shadow, the spirit of Micah himself, his eyes pleading. You must release me, the boy's ghost whispered, only then can peace return. Ethan's heart clenched. We'll free you, but we need you to guide us. Micah's spirit nodded solemnly, and the Watcher's menacing form began to fade. But the ordeal was far from over. From the woods, more spirits emerged, villagers lost to the lake's curse, their faces twisted with pain and anger. Harold warned, the curse is tied to this place's dark past: betrayal, greed, and violence. To lift it, we must confront the truth buried beneath the waters. The trio prepared for a journey beneath the lake's surface to find the source of the curse and set the restless souls free. After the intense confrontation with the Watcher, Ethan, Lucas, and Harold knew that the key to breaking the curse lay beneath the dark waters of Whispering Lake. Armed with old diving gear Harold had salvaged years ago and Micah's locket as their talisman, they prepared to plunge into the unknown. The surface of the lake was eerily still as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with blood-red hues. A chilling wind swept across the water, carrying distant whispers and faint cries. Ethan adjusted his mask and glanced at Lucas. Ready? Lucas swallowed hard but nodded. Ready as I'll ever be. Harold muttered a silent prayer and pushed the small boat toward the deepest part of the lake, a place marked in the ancient tome as the Hollow. As they submerged into the frigid depths, the world above vanished. Darkness swallowed them whole, pierced only by the dim glow of their underwater lamps. Shadows danced along the jagged rocks and sunken ruins, remnants of a forgotten time. Suddenly, Ethan's light caught on a glimmering object half buried in the silt, an ornate box, encrusted with barnacles and rust. Lucas signaled, and together they pried it open, revealing ancient relics, a blood-stained dagger, faded letters sealed with wax, and a small, cracked mirror reflecting distorted images. Harold's voice crackled through their comms. These are the artifacts of betrayal, proof of the greed and violence that cursed this place. As they examined the relics, a sudden tremor shook the lake bed. The water around them thickened, and ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, their hollow eyes fixated on the intruders. Ethan raised Micah's locket, its light intensifying and pushing back the spirits. From the depths, a chilling voice echoed in their minds, "You dare disturb the peace. Prepare to face judgment." The trio steeled themselves for a battle, not just for their lives, but for the souls trapped in the lake's eternal grasp. As Ethan, Lucas, and Harold held their ground beneath the murky depths, the ghostly apparitions swirled around them like a storm of sorrow and rage. The water seemed to pulse with their anger, thickening into tendrils of darkness that threatened to choke the light from their lamps. The chilling voice echoed once more, reverberating through their minds, "Judgment has come. Face the sins of the past." Suddenly, spectral forms manifested, villagers from centuries past, their faces twisted by greed, jealousy, and cruelty. They enacted silent scenes of betrayal and violence, a lover's quarrel turned deadly, a father's rage against his son, a secret buried beneath layers of lies. Harold whispered urgently, "These spirits are bound by their unresolved sins. To free the lake, we must confront their stories and offer redemption." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then we face them and their truth." One spirit, more vivid than the others, stepped forward, a woman draped in mourning, eyes filled with tears. She reached out to Ethan, her voice a mournful wail, "He was my brother. Betrayed and left to drown in the darkness." Lucas's eyes widened as he recognized her from the faded photographs in the box they had found. "She's telling us about the murder that started this curse." The trio listened as the spirits reenacted the final moments, a struggle near the pier, a scream swallowed by the waves, and a betrayal that shattered lives. Ethan's hand tightened around Micah's locket. "We're here to end this." Harold began an incantation from the tome, his voice weaving through the water, calming the turbulent spirits. Light burst from the locket, piercing the darkness and illuminating the lake bed. The spirits paused, their faces softening as the weight of centuries lifted. The lake began to calm, the water clearing as if cleansing itself. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold rose toward the surface, hope swelling in their hearts. But as they broke through the water's surface, a distant, chilling laugh echoed across the lake, a reminder that some shadows never fully fade. The eerie laughter faded into the distance, but an unsettling chill lingered in the air. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold regrouped on the shore, soaked and exhausted, but determined. "Something's still wrong," Ethan muttered, staring at the now calm lake. "The curse. It's not fully broken." Harold nodded gravely. "The lake's sorrow runs deeper than the spirits we've faced. There's a secret buried beneath the waters, hidden from even the oldest tales." Lucas pulled out the faded map and pointed to a spot marked with an X near the lake's edge, a place they hadn't dared to explore, the ruins of an old fishing village swallowed by time and water. "Maybe that's where we find the key to ending this," Lucas said. Under the pale moonlight, they ventured toward the ruins, stepping cautiously over crumbling stones and twisted roots. The air grew thick with history and unseen eyes. Suddenly, a faint glow emanated from beneath the water near a collapsed dock. Ethan waded in, reaching into the cold depths to retrieve a submerged chest covered in algae. Inside, they discovered a bundle of letters, journals, and a peculiar carved amulet shaped like a twisting serpent entwined with a fish. Harold's eyes widened. This amulet belonged to the village elder, the last guardian of the lake's secrets. As they read the journals, dark truths unfolded. The village was cursed after an act of betrayal involving greed, forbidden rituals, and a broken oath to the lake's spirits. The final entry warned, only the pure of heart can mend a broken bond. The cost will be great. A sudden tremor shook the ground, and ghostly figures began to materialize. The villagers, trapped in a limbo between life and death, pleading for release. Ethan grasped the amulet tightly. "We'll do whatever it takes." But as they prepared to perform the final rite, shadows deepened, and a new force stirred beneath the surface, one darker and more vengeful than before. The ruins lay silent beneath the heavy shroud of night, broken only by the soft ripple of the lake's waters and the distant hoot of an owl. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold stood at the water's edge, their breaths forming misty clouds in the cold air. Before them, the submerged village, once vibrant and alive, now a skeleton of stone and memories, whispered tales of sorrow and betrayal. Lucas held the carved serpent fish amulet tightly, its cold surface sending a strange vibration through his fingers. "This is it, the key to the curse," he said quietly. Harold began arranging the relics from the chest, the letters, the locket, and an ancient tome page with ritual instructions scrawled in fading ink. "We have to perform the rite here, at the heart of the village," Harold instructed. "Only then can we hope to mend the broken oath and release the spirits trapped between worlds." Ethan surveyed the dark waters, a knot of apprehension tightening in his chest. "And if we fail?" Harold's eyes met his, steady and grave. "Then the curse deepens, and the lake's wrath will consume us all." With lanterns casting flickering light, the trio began the ritual. Harold recited incantations in a language long forgotten, the words weaving through the mist like ancient songs of power and pleading. Lucas placed the amulet in the center of a circle drawn with white ash, its serpent twisting gracefully as if alive. Ethan scattered dried herbs from a pouch, their scent sharp and pungent, filling the night air. As the final verse echoed into silence, the lake's surface began to churn violently. From its depths, shadowy tendrils emerged, twisting and coiling like serpents, reaching toward the shore. A monstrous figure rose taller than any they had seen before, its form a dreadful fusion of water, stone, and darkness. Eyes like molten gold burned with fury. "This is the spirit of the lake's betrayal," Harold whispered. "The guardian corrupted by pain and rage." Ethan stepped forward, raising the locket. "We face you not as enemies, but as bearers of peace." The creature roared, the sound shaking the earth, but Ethan's steady voice continued, reciting the ancient words of binding and forgiveness. Light burst from the amulet, illuminating the lake in a radiant glow. The shadowy tendrils recoiled, the monstrous figure's fury slowly giving way to sorrow. From the depths, a chorus of voices rose, spirits freed from torment, their mournful wails turning into songs of release. One by one, the ghostly villagers emerged from the shadows, their faces softening, expressions of gratitude shining through. Lucas felt a warmth spread through him as the oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by a serene stillness. But just as the ritual seemed complete, a chilling laugh echoed across the water, a reminder that some darkness lingers, waiting for another night, another soul. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold exchanged weary but hopeful glances. They had battled the curse, uncovered forgotten truths, and offered peace to restless spirits. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink, the lake shimmered with renewed life, its whispers now gentle and forgiving. The trio stood in silent reverence, knowing their journey was over, but the echoes of Whispering Lake would haunt their hearts forever. The first rays of sunlight broke through the thick canopy, casting golden light upon the tranquil surface of Whispering Lake. The haunting whispers that once filled the air had quieted to a gentle murmur, a lullaby of peace finally found. Ethan, Lucas, and Harold stood at the water's edge, the weight of their journey settling like a calm after a storm. The lake shimmered, reflecting the renewed sky and the promise of healing. Lucas broke the silence. "Do you think it's truly over?" Harold looked out across the water, his eyes reflecting both hope and caution. "The spirits are free, but places like this never forget. The past lingers, waiting for those who disturb the balance." Ethan reached into his pocket, fingers closing around Micah's locket one last time. "We did what we came to do. Maybe now the lake can finally rest." A soft breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible laugh, not of menace, but of gentle farewell. As they prepared to leave, a sudden movement caught their attention. From the shimmering waters, a small figure emerged, the spirit of Micah, his eyes warm and filled with gratitude. "You have freed us," the boy's voice echoed softly. "Thank you." Ethan smiled, tears glistening. "Rest well, Micah." The boy's spirit slowly dissolved into a cascade of sparkling light, joining the morning sun that bathed the lake in warmth. Walking away from Whispering Lake, the trio felt changed, burdened yet lighter, haunted yet hopeful. Lucas glanced back one last time. "I'll never forget this place." Harold nodded. "Nor will it forget us." As the forest reclaimed its silence, the lake's whispers became a peaceful song, a final testament to the courage of those who dared to face the darkness and bring light. Title: Whispering Lake, The Curse Beneath the Shadows, a Tale of Spirits and Redemption. Description: Dive into the chilling and captivating story of Whispering Lake, where two adventurous men, Ethan and Lucas, venture deep into a mysterious forest to fish in a secluded lake rumored to be haunted by restless spirits. What begins as a simple fishing trip quickly unfolds into a harrowing journey through dark secrets, ancient curses, and ghostly apparitions. Guided by Harold, the lake's old keeper, they uncover the tragic tale of Micah, a boy whose untimely death bound lost souls to the lake's depths. Facing sinister forces, forgotten betrayals, and a powerful watcher spirit, the trio must perform ancient rituals to break the curse and free the trapped spirits. Experience a story woven with suspense, supernatural encounters, and the enduring power of redemption. Will Ethan, Lucas, and Harold succeed in lifting the curse, or will they become part of the lake's eternal whisper? Join us for an unforgettable journey into the unknown, where every shadow tells a story, and every whisper holds a secret.